been introducing a few of my students to triads and just opening up chords across the neck. So let's jump right in. First of all, we're going to take three basic chords: E minor, D major, and a G major. So pretty chord progression. What we want to do is break out of just these open chord shapes and start looking at other ways to play these notes and chords up and down the neck. So what we need to know is, first of all, you need to know the open chord shapes, and then we look at the bar chords. So for those of you who, where it's a bit difficult for bar chords or you're just beginning, what I like to do is sort of break these bar chords up into triads and start playing little 3-note chords, triads within the bar chord shape. Because every major and minor chord is just made up of 3 different notes. So as long as we play the 3 notes within the chord, we're getting a triad. Without digging too much into theory, this lesson, we'll just concentrate on some shapes and how we can move this progression around. So the first chord, E minor. We can do a triad for E minor, so here's your bar chord. We can do a triad, first finger on the high E, 7th fret, and then we're gonna walk up 8, 9 like a staircase. So all these triads I'm gonna do now, this first part of the lesson, are all on the high 3 strings. There's our E minor. Then we have a D, which is part of this D major bar chord, A shape. So that shape, so let's look at the E minor. What we're going to do is we're going to track it with our first finger. So we're going to drop that first finger back a whole step onto the 5th fret. We're going to take our middle finger off and then put our pinky on the B string on the 7th fret, and that gives us a D major. So we've got E minor, D major, and then we want a G. So we're going to look at the top of this E form bar chord. So if we look at the top of it, this portion here, the top 3 strings, we're going to have the high and the B fretted on the 3rd fret, and then our middle finger is going to grab the major 3rd, so the 4th fret of the G. That's a G major triad. So them 3 chords. All on the top 3 strings. This is a good way to start learning triads because you're mixing, you need to learn them for minor chords and major chords. So if we take a nice progression of 3 chords and look to where we can play it on the neck, it's going to be a good sort of start into this stuff. Now let's look at these triads on the next group of strings. So before we just did the high E, the B and the G. Now we're going to forget the high E. These triads now are going to be on the D, G and B string. So the next shape is going to be, so it's part of this. So if you look at your E major, E minor bar chord, for those of you that know this shape, all you'd have to do is take that first finger off and play the D, G and B strings. That's your E minor triad. So what have we got? We've got middle finger on the 8th fret of the B, minor third. Then we've got ring finger on the 9th fret of the D string. That's our 5th. And then pinky straight underneath it, so it's like this little E shape. Pinky on the G string 9th fret. That's our root. That's another E minor triad. So we've got this one. Same group of notes, just inverted. This is a good, for people that aren't just beginning with bar chords, this is a good way to start learning bar chords as well, because it sort of helps you visualize, rather than learn this full shape. If you learn bits of it, then it's easier to start learning the full form. Then we need a D, and then what we do for a D is we can just get our first finger and we bar the 7th fret, D, G and B strings. That's a D major triad coming from this. So it's basically this shape here without that. But we'll use our first finger. So E minor, to D, then we want G. So part of this E form G, we could do this triad. So first finger on the B string, 3rd fret, that's our 5th. Next finger is going to go on the major 3rd, middle finger, 4th fret G string, and then ring finger, 5th fret of the D. So it's like this shape we did down here, but we move it up a set of strings, and here we're doing it here for G. There's our G root. Try and visualize that root. There's our G major chord, there's the triad. So now we've got the triads on that next group of strings. We've also got G on the 12th fret. Same as what we did here for D. If we bring that up to the 12th fret, we've got G. There's G, where we did this shape for D. If we bring that up, so our first finger's on the 10th fret, same shape, that's G. So we've got this option for G, and this option for G. We've got this option for D, and this option for G. So you can start mixing them up a little bit. Let's look at some more shapes. There's one more shape I'm going to show you, then we'll look at something a bit different. So we've started here on the E minor for this second shape. D. And we could do a G right there. Part of this C shape D. For those that you don't know, let's just look at the shape. First finger, G string, 7th fret. Middle finger, B string, 8th. Ring finger, 9th fret, D. That's a G major triad. So we've got all them three chords now in exactly the same spots. We've got E minor, D, G. Another cool way to look at it is like a John Frusciante style way of playing these chords. Again, without going into too much theory, what we'll do, so if you look at your E minor chord, we're going to take the minor third, which is the middle finger. I'm going to play that note with the low E. And then we need the D. So that minor third, the note behind it is the major third of the D chord. So we could play that note with the open D string. So we've got E, E minor, D, and then we could play from this shape, we could play the fifth. We could leave it with this finger and we're going to reach over with our thumb onto the G. So again, we've got E, D, you can do all this with your first finger if you want. Grab the major third afterwards on the G. Start playing some nice melodies. If you know the bar chords as well, start messing around like Hendrix style with bar chords. So there's a few different layers there of just doing this one progression. It's good to sort of get yourself out of just playing chords up here and looking how the guitar works further up the neck. This is just a quick intro to this. It can get a lot more complicated and a lot more interesting, but this is just a good, good way to start looking at some of these shapes. Have some fun with that. I'll see you soon.